everybody. Ooh, let's get cracking. Oh, welcome. Hey. Oh, hello, ladies. I'll come back to you later. Oh, what's this jangly, jingle jangle sound here? My name is Quinlan, Melbourne Musos, Facechook live on a little bit of a wet Melbourne day. The pooch isn't happy. Oh, he gave me a dirty look before.
You're going out to play that Doris again. You don't love me anymore.
And there it is. I looked too. I went, we can't go. It's piddling down. We can't go, mate. I wanted to go too. Now, what am I going to learn at you today? What the hell am I doing here? I am doing a repetitive phrase. That's what I'm doing. And what happens is tonight I'm going to talk about repetitive phrases, what we do. It's part of the drums, you know. If you're playing a rock beat in a band, there are songs out there that have just the one beat all the way through. One of the greats is Jumpin' Jack Flash. Charlie Watts, Rolling Stones. There you go. That same beat all the way through. There you go. And no fill-ins, no nothing. Just keep on going. Bang, 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 bang. And you've got to keep going. One of the things that has bobbed up over the last little bit, it's got a bit to do with post-COVID too, is that trying to get the kids just to work their practice pad, you know, that kind of thing. So you're just there going, paradiddle, 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 paradiddle. And try and get the... And just try and get them going with the metronome. There you go, I'll put him up here. Hey, hello metronome. And what happens? I'd like to talk today a little bit, I've got a bit of a multi kind of lesson here. I've got a few things happening. And what I'll start with is thresholds, okay? Now what goes on is, I've talked about it before, but I'm going to talk about it in a kind of different light. What starts to happen is the tonality of the drums can change when, depending on the volume you hit the drums with. Now, obviously, I've talked about it before, but it's just like the volume control on your phone. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And what starts to happen is that because I use the triggers for my harmonic side of the evening, and get things going with that. Tonight, I have bells, okay? I have basically Indonesian Gamelan patch. Can you hear the difference in the sound? So if I'm starting very softly, there's your bell sound. Bring it up. Changes. When I get to about 7, you see, it has a threshold. Now, a lot of you out there may have an electronic drum kit. And as you're playing, like if you're playing a cymbal, like so, and then as you get a bit louder, ping, 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 like it starts going, you know, a little bit louder, get the bell. And I've been at pains the last few weeks to get some of my students just stay with the bell, especially when they're online. It's like just, you have to play. This is the waltz. You can't go ping, bum, bum, ping, pom, ping, pom, pom, pim. How's people going to dance to that? You see? And so what goes on is that you control your sound. So when you're using your practice pad for building things up, what you want to do is not only think of the height, but you actually want to think about the threshold, where it changes and the tone changes. If I go to snare drum just for a second, and I take the Gamelan patches out, and I start slow. Oh, well, I'll just start normal. Get louder. But rim shot city. Keep your eyes on a bargain, Mark. So you've got a couple of shades here. You've got your normal notes. You've got your accents. Then you've got your rim shot. And then when you have the triggers, and I put them back in, maybe even turn them up a bit. There you go. What happens is with triggers, you've got dual triggers. And this is what happens with many electronic drum kits. You have your sound in the middle. And then you have your sound on the rim. There it is. I was going to do most of tonight on mallets, funnily enough. There are a few exceptions, but what I'm doing is because I'm also going to branch into this kind of threshold idea. Because when we're talking about repetitive practice to get our chops up, right? When we're sort of getting our paramadoodles and our double stroke rolls and we're working them with the metronome, it's good to work your dynamics as well. And then with that, it's a repetitive nature by its very nature. Okay, our beloved drum set. Now, if I'm just doing, say, something like jangly, bit fun. Ooh, that takes a bit of control. Ooh. Oh, the big gong. And what goes on with that is that this lends itself to a thing called minimalism. And in classical music, the king of minimalism is a chap by the name of Philip Glass, and I'm going to get into him now. And I've done whole shows on Philip Glass, but they were a dozen years ago, so it's time to revisit. There you go. Philip Morris Glass, born January 31st, 1937. I'll put him up there. Is an American composer and pianist. He is widely regarded as one of the most influential composers of the late 20th century. Glass's work has been associated with minimalism, being built up from repetitive phrases and shifting layers. Glass describes himself as a composer of music with repetitive structures, which he has helped evolve stylistically. Wunderbar. There you go. He has the Philip Glass Ensemble, and there's a quirky story. His music got so famous, one of his famous works is Einstein on the Beach. And to fund his Philip Glass Ensemble, he drove taxis in New York. And his Philip Glass Ensemble he sort of hit the big time classically. And the ensemble was booked in to play Carnegie Hall. It's one of those things, you know, you've made it if you've got a gig at Carnegie Hall in famous old New York. But the taxi company pulled a shift on him, so he couldn't go to his own premiere. So he was out driving a taxi while everyone was going, oh, Philip Glass, you know, more class than that kind of thing. And let's have the sherry and celebrate Phil's success. So what does the two have to do with what we do? Is what we have is if we're going to go man playing a paradiddle with a 4 on the floor on the bass drum, hi-hat 2 and 4. Repetitive, just moving it around. Everything is right, left, right, left, left. And and what's happening there is I'm just going at it the same way that I'd go at it with a practice pad and just really get it going with the old metronome. And what I'm doing now is going to talk about with thresholds, which I started the show about, is a couple of different kinds of things. You can have a threshold of sound, and you can have a threshold of speed, you see. So what happens is that when we start looking at the threshold where things change, and the fire alarm starts off in the middle there, what happens is that you have, if we think of 1 to 10, and that's what it is, moderato is 5, okay? And then what goes on is that essentially you've got your soft, medium, and loud. So therefore, I've talked about this before, but this is in the context of something a little bit different I'm going to do with you. What happens is then you essentially have soft, medium, and loud. Soft is piano at 3. Think of like turning your volume to 3. Medium is, of course, 5, halfway. And then loud is 7. And then the 3 terms are P for piano, which is soft, piano, soft, 3. And M is 5, moderato, medium. And then forte means loud, and that's 7. Every time you add an extra F or an extra P, I'm going through it quick because I've already done it, you're adding a very. So if you have a PP, it's very soft. If you have a PPP, it's very, very soft. And if you can have a whisper, that might be a PPPP. So, ooh, barely touching the drum. Ooh, got to get it. Oh, just like that, a whisper. And then, of course, if you're going forte, 7, FF, very loud, very, very loud is 9. And sforzando, may the Schwartz be with you, you bash them. Da 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 da. Cannon goes off. Boof. Tchaikovsky 1812 Overture. It used to be used as an army commercial to recruit soldiers. Do you remember? Have a nookie with your gumboots on. Have a nookie with your gumboots on. Da 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 da. You remember that from the 80s? Minimalism. What's up? Back in the day, we used to call it tututiti when Philip Glass first, came to prominence. He was quite the. I remember listening to it and I was mesmerised, and it just kept on going and going. It was like trance-like, a lot like Gamelan, where you have a repetitive figure, and that's why I've got these little things here. Now, what happens is that we used to call it tututiti because it used to be wow 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 wow. That's what it is. Oh, there you go. Now, one of the things that Philip Glass did is that he was commissioned for writing a piece for our very own Melbourne Federation bells, which are in Birrarungma. And the bells are absolutely wonderful. They're often credited as one of the top public installation sites in the world. And if you go to the Federation Bells website, they actually take compositions. They'll send you like a list of instructions and stuff, and there's plenty of wonderful modern-day Australian composers that write pieces for the bells, and there you go. And they start going 3 times a day. Here's your minimalism. And when you're dealing with orchestrating music for the bells, what happens is that they have a certain timbre, they have a certain length, and then you have to write accordingly, you see. And then this is where I sort of shift to Gamelan, because they have the same kind of thing. Aha! There you go. Now, one of the things about Philip Glass and his minimalism and stuff, he's actually quite famous for collaborations. And one of the things is he collaborated with people like David Bowie and Brian Eno with the Low Symphony, all that sort of business. And that's topical because the new David Bowie doco is in town. I'm going to go and see it this weekend before it goes off. I missed the exhibition. I thought it was on for 1 week a few years ago, back in 2016 or whenever. And I went, I'm going. And I looked, closed. What? And I missed one of the great exhibitions for our dear David Bowie. Getting back to Federation Bells, when the Federation Bells were commissioned to be built, it was there for the anniversary, centenary of our federation. So 2001, and Philip Glass was commissioned to play it. I was there at the town hall. It was wonderful, and they had the bells up the back of the Melbourne Town Hall. And then you had the chap doing the organ business, and it was just layer after layer, and then the bells came down, and it was just wondrous. I just remember being absolutely wondrous. And then, by their very nature, as I mentioned before, you've got the big bells. I've got the triggers like. That's how long it goes for. And then you've got the jingle jangle up the top. So if you ever go to, all the places, Bali and Indonesia, all that sort of business, you're going to hear it off in the distance. It's their national music. There it is there, you see, you get that. And then with that, what starts to happen is we're going over to the harmonic side of the evening. Drummers doing harmony. When you're doing gamelan, one of the scales that happens with the bells and the way they make their instruments and what they do is one of the big scales is what's known as the P-log scale, P-E-L-O-G. Look it up. There's a couple of variations of them, but the main one has a first, I'll put it here, first, flat second, flat third, a fifth, a flattened sixth, and then the octave. And then what happens with that, it's very close to a Phrygian mode, okay? The main tonality with your Phrygian mode is essentially the third step of a major scale. And when you do that, there's the flat second, there's the flat third, but you also have a fourth with that one, and the flat sixth, and also a flat seven. So they're very close, they match. Of course, the Phrygian mode is best known as, like I mentioned when I do the harmonic part of the evening, is the third step of the major scale. So it's all the white notes. If you want to do like an E Phrygian mode, it's all the white notes, it's all your natural notes, but from E to E. So essentially it's your C major scale from E to E. But I'm talking about the P-log, which is very similar. And then what happens with that, I'll make it a bit more clear, because when I do the bass drum, I'm like, you know, that kind of thing. Now, this kind of music is in our region, but one of the great composers, a contemporary of Igor, no, it's Igor. That's a shout out to Les Rankin, seeing you put up Young Frankenstein today. No, the rates have gone up. Where the hell was I going with that? Oh yeah, Igor Stravinsky's contemporary was Claude Debussy. And one of the things that very much sort of influenced one Mr. Claude Debussy was his listening to this aforementioned Gamelan at the 1888, I believe, French exposition, where he heard a Gamelan group play and he was mesmerized. Now, the French exposition is not to be confused with the
Didn't expect a kind of Spanish Inquisition. Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. Our chief weapon is surprise. Surprise and fear. Fear and problem. Two weapons are fear and surprise. And ruthless efficiency are three weapons. Our fear and surprise and ruthless efficiency and an almost fanatical devotion to the Pope are four. No. Amongst our weapons. violent as fierce. I'll come in again.
Come in again. Oh!
Nobody expects the Spanish
Inquisition. Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. Nobody expects the
Spanish Inquisition. Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition.
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. Not to be confused with the French Exposition of 1888. Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. Cheap weapons or surprise. I'll come in again. And that's what goes on, you see. So Claude Debussy was very much influenced by Gamelan. So when you're listening to some of the nocturnes, perhaps Le Maire, and all of these things, you've got things like the whole tone scale. Oh, I wasn't going to do that, but anyway, there you go. I've done it before. I won't, because I'm going to stick to the P-log. And what happens is that when you're doing the P-log scale, when you're listening to this kind of ethereal, that's a big word, or the ethereal way of playing, and then you sort of get, like, now going all the way back to try and just get endurance on your practice pad when you're practicing. This is where all that comes from. And you've just got to hold, so you're playing a dead slow beat, really. But you're playing very fast inside it, like that. See, there's a lot of work when you do that. And try and do a seamless change from, say, single stroke to double. Getting things like that. And then there's the tempo side of things when we're talking about thresholds. There you go. I have my ancient iPhone here, and iPhone 4, my lord, but I can still use it. And what happens is now, like I said with the volume, now I can talk about tempo. And then what happens is that, let me take you essentially kind of a loose 1 to 10. There's a few more of them. But the first one, check the space out here, mate. The lowest one is grave. Not to be confused with grave sort of thing, but it's that kind of thing. Have a listen to this. Oh. Dance to that. Oh, that's grave. That's grave. You go up one. Oh, by the way, I'm using Tempo. It's a great app. Shameless plugging, but I don't get paid for it. There it is. That's grave. That's 20 beats per minute. Oh, bloody hell. Then you go to Lento, okay, which is 40. Okay. And yes, that's known as broad, like Largo, which is the next one. Ooh, Largo's 45. Now, don't forget that it's not a line. It's not 45 beats per minute. It's a range. So with Largo, let's see, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, and you get to Larghetto, which is a little bit more. And there you have that. That's that business there. Then you have Adagio, which simply means slowly. And it starts at 55. And as everybody knows, I hope, Adagio, 60 beats per minute. You're looking at a second, mate. See that? Oi! I'll do that there. You'll get it later. There it is there. And that's a second. You can actually see a second. That's what a second sounds and looks like. There you go. If I keep going up, I'll go to the next one is Andante. I'm just shopping because there's a couple of little tiny little... I'm doing the main ones, basically. Andante is walking pace. You know, just walking down the street, that kind of thing. And then you can have a moderato, which starts at 86 beats per minute. That's what goes on there. And then you can have allegro, that starts at 110. That's allegro. And one of the big things is always remember, I've done a whole show on 120. Okay, the reason being is because that's your typical marching tempo. Typical. A little bit slower, I found out, with any kind of pipe band because of the bagpipes and their very nature. Let's see if a Gamelan orchestra was marching. Anyway, there you go. And that's 120. Hey, I better get a wriggle on here. I'm nearly out of time already. And that's an allegro. And then vivace means brightly, brightly. Vivace. Now, these are all Italian words that you would hear down the street. Like if you've got Mama Gina, my ex-mother-in-law, and you do things like presto, 168 beats per minute, and things like that, getting a little wriggle on here, you'd hear it. You'd hear it. Charlie! Presto, presto! Means hurry up, Charlie. You know, that kind of thing. Away you go.
Presto! Mangiare, hello, we're running late.
I can say that. Like all my friends, growing up in Carlton, I was the only skip. So, you come in, you have a... Dad used to deliver the grog to some people. He'd come out half pissed with the grappa. Oh, bloody hell! Sort of thing. There you go. No, Mr. John, you come in, you have a plate of pasta. Every time you walk into one of those beautiful houses, Mama gets up, she makes you the plate of pasta. The father makes you a coffee and then come out to the garage. You got to go home with half a salami, a couple of shots of grappa made from potatoes, or whatever it is, and away you'd go, and you go, bloody hell, I gotta have a lay down. Oh, there it is. So there's presto. And then you have prestissimo, which starting from 178. And there's that. Now, sometimes I get asked about this. We're in the digital age. But when you're actually looking at an old-fashioned tick-tock with the pendulum metronome, I want to buy one. I've had 5 in my time, and every time I lend them to a student, both of them disappear. Hello. See ya. And the things you do. Anyway, so what happens is that the highest tempo on one of the old-fashioned metronomes is 208. That's as far as the weight on the pendulum could go down the bottom. And dear old Harold, oh, bloody hell, you know, that kind of thing. Oh, well, you got to do it all the different ways until you get to 208, son. I'll be back in a minute and say hello to your mum and visit you. And they got this. Oh, who remembers those, sitting there? It'd be like a Zen lesson. Now left hand start, son. Double stroke roll. Oi! There it is. There's the metronome. Oh, there it is there. Oh. So I'm going to wrap the show up now. Minimalism. Tied in with Claude Debussy and Philip Glass. Federation bells with bell sound, using my Gamelan patches, which influenced Claude Debussy.
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. 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 Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition.
And the French Exposition. And what happens there is that's where so much of the influence of world music, everything like that, sort of thing. And then, as well as that, I got harmonic with the P-log scale, and then I did thresholds with both volume and speed. I hope you got something out of it. Oh. Did you know, for getting right into a little bit of drumming, just to finish off, Terry Bozzio actually wanted Philip Glass to write a piece for him because of the very nature of the drums being repetitive. And I don't know why it hasn't happened, whatever, but I remember that all the way back to the 90s. And I said, oh, I'd love to play a piece by Philip Glass. And so, you know, doing things like that. One of the things when you're talking about you start to overlay patterns, and I'm almost doing a second show now, so I better wrap it up. But what happens with that is that you can do certain things, and it could just be like what I was doing then was just left, right, right. You could be doing 4 with the right hand. 2. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, mucked it up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1. You get the idea. Go away and practice. Hey, I'm out of here. Oh, that's what it is. My name is Quinlan. This is Melbourne Musos Facechook Live, and I hope you enjoyed it. I'm off to edit it with a bit of cordial, and it'll be up tomorrow. And on beloved Channel 31 Wednesday week, I think. There you go. Hey! Take it.
One,